Video 3, this is the easy part to fix your thyroid. So as I mentioned in the first video, you got things that absolutely destroy your thyroid tissue, and it's surprising how many people that have issues with this. We've tested lots of people and they've got thyroid antibodies. It's very easy to test. So check that video out. Information on this page about how to check that video out. And video 2 was all about the disruptors, which are completely imbalancing all of your hormones. So there should be information on that page about how to check out that video. And then this is the easy part. It truly is thyroid optimization. The most important thing to understand about thyroid hormone is that it works in a butter zone, very tight regulation, not too high, not too low. And when you get this and this correct, this is super easy and it will stay there permanently. It'll be locked in your brain. You'll know how to do this. So thyroid hormone, as I mentioned, is one of the key hormones for all human health and vitality, longevity, energy, brain function, sex hormone production, all of it. So let's talk about it. So the very first video there, we talked about how the system, they don't really check for it at all. And the issue with that is when they do check your thyroid, and you basically got to beg for them to do it, there's two big problems. Number one, if you're in this big wide range, they'll send you on your way and they'll say, you're good. You're not even close. You're not optimal at all. You're up and down all over the place. You need to be between 1.8 and 3. And I've got information on this page about how to download a PDF to show you what those ranges are. And the other big issue is this. If they do check your thyroid, generally they'll only check one, which is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And if you're lucky, they'll test T4, which isn't even close. We need to check 9 labs that yield 100% of the information to understand how to correct your thyroid. There's 6 functional patterns that are harder to fix, and then there's 22 metabolic patterns, which are easier to fix, generally simply nutrient deficiencies. And we spoke about that on the last video. So just to refresh your mind, this is how and why thyroid hormone is one of the key hormones for everything. This video, I'll play it again. It's from Kevin Tokoff, and he's got a master's in science. Listen carefully, my friends.
One of them is increased glucose uptake. So if we're loading up the blood with glucose, it doesn't do us any good if these tissues don't have super efficient glucose uptake. So thyroid hormones will also stimulate glucose uptake by these cells, and the way that it does that is by increasing the amount of glucose transporters in their membranes. So more glucose transporters allows them to import more glucose in, and they can use that glucose to make ATP. So remember that, more ATP to do work. And so some of that work could be protein synthesis, but we can't make proteins without amino acids. So thyroid hormones will also stimulate amino acid uptake. So if you have more thyroid hormone, you have more amino acid uptake by these cells. And this is most pronounced in skeletal muscle, which requires a lot of protein synthesis. So the ATP from metabolism compounded with the increased amino acid uptake gives you increased protein synthesis. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. A couple other things about thyroid hormones. One, they also increase the overall metabolic rate. So what does that mean? Well, metabolism is just pathways. It's a bunch of enzymes that are catalyzing reactions. For example, if we're looking at the degradation of glucose into pyruvate, which is glycolysis, that's a series of 10 enzymes. And when we look at the rate of metabolism, that depends on how many of those enzymes we have. So this is a very abstract way of looking at it, but let's suppose out of glycolysis we have 1,000 enzymes. Okay, we have 1,000 molecules of the enzymes in glycolysis. Well, if we add some thyroid hormone, maybe instead of 1,000 we go up to 10,000. Okay, we have 10 times the number of enzymes. Therefore, we can break down 10 times the number of glucose molecules into pyruvate. So kind of a simplistic way of looking at it, but that's essentially what thyroid hormone does, is it increases the amount of the enzymes we have, and that allows us to metabolize faster because we have more of them. It's kind of like if you had a bunch of workers who are building a house. You're going to be able to build the house faster if you have more workers, right? Makes intuitive sense, hopefully.
So that's a great analogy there. What kind of house do you want to build? What kind of body do you want to build? What kind of mind do you want to build? It's all tied in together. And it also keeps cholesterol at healthy levels. And the medical system, it's like statins are a multi-billion-dollar a year drug industry. So why don't they optimize your thyroid hormone? Why are they only checking one or maybe two thyroid labs? And it's a big wide range, which isn't useful for understanding how to get your thyroid back to health. So that's something to think about right there. And as he mentioned there, it's going to help you have optimal blood glucose because it's going to put transporters to optimize blood glucose. And if you remember the last video, video number 2 there, check this out. So glucose causes oxidative stress when it's too high. We need to get it 85 and below. That's optimal. And the medical system will say 100 is optimal. And in Australia, that's 4.7 and about 5.5. So, big 4.7. So big differences there. So you think you're okay, but here's the problem. Now, this is a great book to pick up from Dr. James Di-Nicolantonio, and this is going to show you how to fix your blood sugar, right? The Blood Sugar Fix on Amazon. So in that book, he referenced this study here from Keith et al., 2008. Now, this is a 2-hour postprandial glucose test. So after 2 hours, if your blood sugar goes 87, or that's 4.7 in Australia, you've got a coronary regression in the plaque in your arteries. Wow. But if it's above that, remember, they say 100 is okay. You've got a regression in the plaque in your arteries. You're moving in the opposite direction. So we can see how critical thyroid hormone is. So when your blood sugar is too high, you've got inflammation, interleukin 16, F alpha, interleukin 18. So that isn't good. And it eventually drives insulin resistance. And thyroid hormone for the brain. So as you can see here, recent study, June 30, 2022, relationship between thyroid hormone, central nervous system, metabolism in psychological, mental stress, anxiety, depression, psychosis, and pathological conditions, autoimmune disease. So basically, the thyroid hormones comes into the astrocyte as T4. It's converted into T3. It goes into the neuron, and you've got neurogenesis, myelination, synaptogenesis. What does that mean? Fast, sharp brain. No brain fog. Your brain's got a lot of energy to do work. Can you see how important that is? And just so you know, T4 is like crude oil. We have to convert into T3. 60% in the liver, 20% in a healthy gut, and 20% in the rest of the tissues, including the brain there. So we have to have that metabolic stress under control. And this is how it boosts metabolism and also testosterone. So when we've got optimal T3, the active form, it increases Leydig cell LH receptors, right? More transporters for LH. LH is a precursor to make testosterone, more transporters, and more sterogenic enzymes. As Kevin said there, look at these enzymes. Do you see them? They're everywhere. So this is absolutely key to getting thyroid optimal. Now, just a couple of things. As I mentioned, you've got D and A, food sensitivities, which are set in stone. Everyone is different. Lectins are a big one for some people. Gluten, nightshades, all of these things can really screw you up and shortchange you. And lectins, we've tested hundreds and hundreds of people, and about 65% are sensitive to lectins. Some have a high sensitivity. They need to abstain from lectins completely. Some people have a low sensitivity, so they can have a little bit, providing they have a healthy gut. And a lot of people do not have a healthy gut. This is my good friend, Dr. J, just speaking to the deleterious effects of lectins if you have a DNA sensitivity to lectins. Listen to this.
The lectin is the big one. That's a 4-fold higher risk of heart disease, even as a plus minus, the SELE.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So lectins are going to trigger a lot of damage to the arteries and damage to the gut. I would recommend avoiding grains.
Yeah.
Grains are the major source of lectins.
Yeah.
And his gut's very sensitive to grains also, with the gluten. And he's got a thyroid gene that comes up later with gluten as well. So I would say just take off the grains,
Heart disease, stroke, thyroid issues, gut issues, DNA sensitivity. You can get this tested too. More information, let me know. Now, another one is what's called an inappropriate immune response to foods. And I'll explain how this plays out. So this is how you can get it tested. This is an IgG test. You can also get an IgA test. Now, this is interesting. Very, very interesting. This is one of my recent clients. And as you can see here, really bad with dairy and almonds. And he's also got antibodies 6 months after he abstained from gluten and a grain-free lectin diet. And he's still got antibodies for gliadin, which is a component of gluten. And he's still got gluten issues as well. So these antibodies are still there. And you can see wheat down here. Oats are no good. So as you can see there, we also have to test for these inappropriate immune food sensitivities. So how does this all work? How do we get these inappropriate immune responses to foods? So basically, a lot of people have a sick gut. So the tight junctions open up, undigested food particles leach into the blood. And this is IgG. And when they're in the blood, they're called antigens. And these specialized cells called macrophages test it. And because it shouldn't be there, it then launches an attack. These T cells here have a memory. They remember that this food is an issue. And then it launches this attack. Mast cells go up, histamine goes up, everything comes down. Hormones, all of it, brain function, energy, you get fatigue and brain fog. So that's how that all plays out. And guess what else? These inappropriate food sensitivities, whether that's DNA or inappropriate IgG, IgA responses, they screw up your sleep. So they negatively impact your sleep. And just to show you how deleterious that is, let's have a look at sleep restriction, which is exactly what I'm speaking to here. You've got low testosterone, poor cognition and mood, so you don't feel very good. Your brain's not working too well. You've got anxiety and stress. And then cortisol goes up, and cortisol fosters negative emotions. Bone strength and muscle strength go down. And this here is very interesting. This is Matthew Walker, sleep scientist, and just talking about how impactful poor sleep is. Check this out.
Not getting sufficient sleep, 70% of all the weight that you lose will come from lean muscle mass, and not fat.
Right. The body, when it's fatigued in that way, wants to hold on to those fat cells.
Exactly.
Right?
Your body becomes stingy in giving up its fat.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, when you are underslept, but you're trying to watch your diet, watch what you eat, you will lose what you wanted to keep, which is muscle, and you will gain what you wanted to lose, which is fat.
So you still lose weight, but a lot of it's muscle. And because cortisol's a part of the equation, you get skinny fat while you're doing it. And it's hard. It's difficult. You get a lot of negative emotions. So that's just the overview. Now let's talk about how to optimize it. So this is the optimization part of it. And I'm also going to give you a bonus here, which is all about DHEA, the neural steroid, the fountain of youth steroid hormone. We're going to optimize this one too, not just thyroid. So basically, you've got the circadian rhythm. The sleep sets it. So if you go to sleep at 9 o'clock and you sleep 8 hours and wake up, that's each and every day, repeat, rinse, rinse. That's going to set your circadian rhythm. And the second part of setting the circadian rhythm is light. And we'll talk about how much time and how to do that as we progress. Now, if you don't get light within the first hour of waking to set the circadian rhythm, these are the consequences. So number one, emotions tank, fluctuations in mood, irritability, anxiety, loss of empathy, frustration, impulsiveness, negative salience, more negative thoughts than you care to have. You're predisposed for alcohol and stimulants. Not cool. Number two, cognition tanks, so your earning potential comes down. So cognitive performance tanks, memory consolidations, you can't learn too well, your comprehension's not there, attention, concentration, communication, decision-making, creativity and productivity, which is huge, motor performance in the gym, and social connectivity. So you just got social anxiety, you feel like garbage. And then number three, long-term health consequences, micro sleeps at the wheel, not cool, cardiovascular disease, altered stress response, not awesome at all, which is really deleterious, infection, lowered immunity, cancer, metabolic abnormalities, insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes, depression, and psychosis. So we got to have optimal light in the morning. Now, right here, let's talk about DHEA. So what you might know is that DHEA and cortisol here have the same precursor hormone. So this is your first clue, and I'll talk about how to optimize DHEA in the next couple of slides. That the important thing to understand about DHEA, it's really high in the morning and it's really low in the afternoon. So we're using it all throughout the day. So what does that mean? Well, we top it up in sleep. So when you have deep sleep, because you don't have food sensitivities and you're sleeping deeply, you'll wake up with a fresh tank of DHEA. So when you look at your blood labs and your DHEA is not optimal, not on the high normal there, you're not sleeping. So that's how you can really test for it. And you'll find that you've got too much cortisol being produced. You can do a cortisol check throughout the whole day at 4 different points. And a lot of people, and we've tested them, they're making over double the cortisol than they should. So this is how that plays out. So both cortisol and DHEA have this hormone precursor, ACTH. It's released in a pulsatile manner 40 times a day. So in the morning when cortisol comes up, which is very optimal, when we're making a lot of cortisol, but as that peters down, as you can see here, it starts at about 3 and it peters down at about 12. So it goes up in this middle zone here and comes back down. That's how it's supposed to play out. Then we're using our DHEA, and then she'll come up really a lot of pulses at nighttime. We're really making a lot of this ACTH at nighttime to make DHEA or cortisol. So a lot of people don't sleep properly. They've got insomnia. They toss and they turn. They're just absolutely exhausted. And guess what hormone they're making? Cortisol. They're not making DHEA. And food sensitivities drive that powerfully. So that's why we need to correct those food sensitivities. Now, this is what DHEA does, and scientists call it the longevity and also the youthful hormone. However, when it comes to military performance, yes, DHEA, problem solving and academic performance. We want that. But what about emotion? Well, this is what DHEA does. Significant increases in the positive effect scales of caring and vigor. We want more vigor in life. Significant decreases in the negative emotions of guilt, hostility, burnout, anxiety, and stress. DHEA significantly and positively related to the affective state, warm-heartedness, whereas cortisol, back up here, we feel like shit. So you can see what's going on there. And it also screws up your thyroid. It causes thyroid resistance when cortisol is up. And a lot of people are making too much cortisol. So you can test this out. And it's 4 tests throughout the day. So 1, 2, 3, 4 tests, and you'll see how much cortisol you're making. And you won't be making a lot of the neural steroid, DHEA. Now, this is where the sun comes in. We'll talk about times in a moment. So when you get sun or light therapy in the first hour of waking, light goes in, stimulates thyroid stimulating hormone to make a lot of thyroid hormone. Think about that. And it makes perfect evolutionary sense. Our ancestors in the long, cold winter, sun at about 8 o'clock and it went down to about 4 o'clock, so they weren't making a lot of thyroid hormone. So your metabolism comes down. Your sex hormone production comes down. To survive the long, cold winter, come summer, sun's up at 5:30, it goes down at 7:30, and you're making a boatload. So the way that you hack this in the winter is you use light therapy. And there's a lot of research on light therapy. So there's a pilot study, 2016, randomized, placebo-controlled, all about testosterone production. And it basically doubled their testosterone there. And it also significantly reduced cortisol. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits to getting the light therapy there. So you can go on Amazon. I've probably got a link below to go grab one of these. And they're only about $30. And you just need to stay in front of them for about 20 or 30 minutes. So 30-minute sessions in 2 weeks, doubled that testosterone. But they're also increasing your metabolism and optimizing thyroid hormone. So let's start bringing it all together. So this is everything that screws up your thyroid hormone. Let's start over here. So food sensitivities will screw you up. Pesticides and toxins and chemicals, heavy metals screw you up. Fluoride is an antagonist. It will slow down the old thyroid hormone there. Then you've got trauma and infection, radiation, EMF radiation from mobile phones, stress, whether that's metabolic stress from food sensitivities or emotional stress. But the paradox is when you've got metabolic stress, it gives you mental stress. So it's a double whammy. Then over here, you've got all of these nutrients, iron, iodine, tyrosine, zinc, selenium, vitamin E, all the B vitamins, C and D, vitamin A, selenium, zinc, zinc again. And this is what screws you up again, stress, right? Lots of stress, metabolic stress from a poor diet or food sensitivities, low calorie diet. So after about 2 weeks, your thyroid hormone comes down. Then you've got liver and kidney issues. Certain medications take you out. So as you can see there, once we fix all of these issues, you get the morning sun, you're a long step in the right direction. And a special mention goes to light at nighttime. Listen to this.
When we view light, we reduce the amount of melatonin released. In fact, if you wake up in the middle of the night when melatonin typically is pretty high in your brain and body, and you flip on a bright light in the bathroom, your melatonin levels crash down to almost zero and stay there. Light is a very powerful modulator of melatonin, and light inhibits melatonin.
So light inhibits melatonin. So if you've got bright lights, it takes about 90 minutes for melatonin to come up to optimal levels. So you just crash, you go to sleep and just stay asleep, providing you don't have that metabolic stress and mental stress for that matter. But if you've got bright lights, it doesn't go up too high. And you go down to bed, you toss and you turn, you think about what's happened the day before or what you got to do tomorrow, and you just can't sleep. And when you get melatonin at optimal levels, you get sleep pressure. You just can't keep your eyes open. So what I've got these lights, and this light here has all these different colors. So I've got one in my kitchen, one in my bedroom, one in the bathroom, and I just switch it on this warm light there, and I fix all of these issues. So melatonin goes up 90 minutes, and I just crash and sleep all night long. So how long do you need to have the sun in the morning? Well, if it's bright and sunny, about 10 minutes. If it's overcast, about 20 minutes. If it's raining, about 30 minutes. And if you want to use the light therapy, it's about 30 minutes. So in the winter, it's a great idea. And as you can see here, that's one of them right there. So that's old light therapy. Let me just put this back. Put this back right there. All right. So let me just show you what the functional method is all about, because this is going to show you exactly what you need to do as an individual to get back to health on a clear path, time-bound to certainty, to show you what you need to do. So number one here, you've got to look at your exposome, your history, some of your blood labs and your history there, and your current labs. Critically, we've got to check the right ones, and we've got to see where they're out to get them back to functional range. And that's called a framework to get you back there. And another thing we can do is the genome. A lot of people have genome sensitivities, DNA. So things like nightshades, you could be sensitive to gluten. Lots of people are. Some people are sensitive to lectins, plant sterols, ergothioneine, and mushrooms. We are all different. And once we understand that, we can stop eating those foods that are slowly poisoning us, harming us, and that's going to get us back to health. We can also look at the genome there, and like we've tested lots and lots of people, and very few people have a healthy gut, and we're all uniquely different. Some people need to do a lot. Some people don't need to do much at all to get back to health. And the fourth thing that you need to do is check for inappropriate IgG, IgA food sensitivities. And what that's going to show you is exactly how to get back to health with certainty. And you'll know exactly how long it's going to take and the steps you need to take each and every day from when your feet hit the floor in the morning all the way to when your head hits the pillow at nighttime. So just stacking the odds in your favor. And just to show you what's possible, a dude came to us and he was on TRT and he wants to have kids. So when you're on TRT, your FSH, which is spermogenesis, crashes, so you lose your fertility. And when we tested his was only at 1 million. We need to get it about 15 million. And his LH, the precursor to testosterone, was on the floor because he was on TRT and he wants to have kids. So when we did his labs on TRT, really high, 1228 nanograms per milliliter there. And this was on the 13th of November. So we gave him that plan that you see right here. He knew exactly what to do. And then we tested him again on the 29th of January off TRT. And his testosterone, this is Australian units, he's an Aussie, 20.8, which is 599 nanograms per deciliter there, which is pretty good. And his FSH and LH were right in the butter zone there. And then right here, 25th of March, 24, 813. So off TRT, and he's never felt better. And when we had a look at his genome there, he's actually got a slow testosterone gene. So we really needed to work on boosting his testosterone. We got that up quite nicely very quickly, but he's got a lot of estrogen risk. So we also had to optimize estrogen there. So if you got a lot of estrogen sensitivity, that's going to shut down testosterone production. It's also going to make you feel like shit, because when estrogen is up too high, we kind of get skinny fat, and it's very difficult to pack on muscle and drop body fat. So that's how you want to think through this: the exposome, genome, microbiome, and food sensitivities. So if you want to have a conversation with me about how to do this, there should be information on that page. We jump on a call. I show you exactly how we can do this for you. Clear, time-bound path with certainty back to health. Because, you know, if you want to play a big game in life, we've got to have optimal hormones. We've got to have good blood labs, and we want to look good doing it too. So we want to get the lean body. We want to have the mindset to take life on, and we can do that now. So if you want to book a call with me, and we'll talk about how we can potentially get you back to that place using the functional method there. Information on this page, jump on a call. So that's about it for this call, and I'll see you on the next one.